Hello, my name is Sally and I am one of the makeup artists working with Look Fabulous Forever, which is skincare, hair care and makeup specifically designed for older faces. Today I want to talk to you about different makeup application for different face shapes. The key principles to remember about makeup is that dark and shadow will push back and light and luminescence will bring forward. So with older faces, keeping everything quite simple if you are trying to do some sort of shading, contouring and highlighting is essential. And keeping everything with a very light touch, building up rather than going in heavy with anything. Let me talk through some different face shapes and then I'm going to talk through some different ways of using makeup to enhance those different face shapes. What I have already done myself this morning is I have applied, I've used my morning skincare and I have used the 3 primers, the face prime, the eye prime and the Never Feather lip prime, and I've put my base on. So I've got Continuous Cover foundation in shade number 2 mixed with a little bit of Light Look Beauty Balm in shade 0.5. And I've already done my eyes using the warm brown trio and dark brown eyeliner. And I have done my lips using Roseberry lip liner and Tawny Beige lipstick and a little bit of lip gloss in Cinnamon Kiss. So I have done my base makeup. What I haven't done my cheeks, I haven't done any highlighter, I haven't done any bronzer or any blusher yet. So let's talk through different face shapes. It might be that you have a round face, then you will have the similar distance between your cheeks, between both cheeks, and between your chin and your forehead. So you will have a sort of a rounder, fuller, with a bit more width to your face. And it's a lovely youthful face, but it can lack a little bit of structure. So you can use makeup to change that very slightly. So let's talk about that. A round face would look good with a little bit of bronzer under the cheekbones, sort of here and here. So our bronzer, which is this one, looks very scary, but you can use it. It doesn't come out nearly as orangey as it looks in the palette. And it's matte, so it's really good for not only using it as a bronzer but slightly as a contouring effect. We talked about pushing back, so basically you can push back with a rounder face sort of underneath the cheekbones just to hollow them out and just give an illusion of more shape. What you can also do is you can use highlighter, and we have a brilliant highlighter called Instant Bright Highlighter, which I'm going to demonstrate in a moment, but it basically will bring forward in a very subtle way. So what you can do with a rounder face is you can use this highlighter on the top of your cheekbones in a sort of C and a little bit in the chin area, which will just again bring an illusion of length because light brings forward. So it will make your face look slightly longer and just give that little bit more shape. The other thing you can do, and this is something I love to do with a rounder face, is when I put the blusher on. So we do a lovely range of colours in our blushers. And I tend to use either Desert Rose or Peach Cream. So the blushers are a cream that turns into a powder. And what you can do when you place the blusher on a slightly rounder face is you can bring it a little bit more vertical and a little bit more forward rather than going too horizontal, which will emphasize the roundness of your face. So you can just sort of slightly bring it down this way. A little bit, not too low. What you don't want to do is just to put a little swirl and a round outward look, because that will just emphasize roundness. So a little bit forward, a little bit more vertical with your blusher on a rounder face. The other thing you can do is you can slightly more arch your eyebrows using our lovely Bring Back Brow Shape, which is our lovely brow product. So you can, with the brow shape, you can slightly, only very slightly though, change the shape of your brows just to lift them and slightly arch them more, which will again make that little bit more length in your face. And also you can be a little bit bolder on your lips, which again will draw attention sort of downwards slightly, and drawing that attention, so you might want to go for a slightly darker or deeper or brighter colour. So there's lots of things that you can do using makeup. Makeup is an illusion and a distraction, but that's some of the things that will work with a rounder face. You want to slightly elongate it. Oval face. So I have a fairly oval face. Nobody fits necessarily into absolutely the category. You might find that you are oval. So I'll tell you what I am. Let me put my clips on just to show you. So I've got a fairly oval face, although I have got a little bit, I've got a couple of jowls that never used to be there. I used to have a perfectly oval face when I was younger, but these have made this bit look a little bit squarer. I'll tell you about that in a moment. So an oval face, it's still got some curve to it. It's still like the rounder face, but it's a little bit longer than it is wide. So a round face is as it says, is round. The oval face has got a little bit more length. And in fact, an oval face doesn't tend to have a very square jaw, although I've got a little bit of a square jaw, and it doesn't have a very pointy chin. So it's actually a really good face shape for makeup. An oval face, basically, you know, you can pretty much get away with everything and apply your bronzer and your highlighter. So what I tend to do with mine is, so I've already put my powder on. Really important to put powder on before you put your bronzer on, so that it doesn't grab it. So what I quite like to do, I'm actually going to use the foundation brush number 3 for this one, which is quite good for sort of contouring. And I'm going to take a little bit of my bronzer. And what I quite like to do is just sweep just a little bit of bronzer into my hairline, which I probably wouldn't do with a rounder face because that will squash the face even more. So just into my hairline, into my temples. You can sort of do it in a 3 shape with this. So what I quite like to do is put a tiny bit of bronzer just to push back my jowly area here, because dark pushes back. I don't want to highlight this area, but just by putting a little bit here into the temples. You can see how light this colour is. It doesn't come out scarily orange at all. You can build up. I also quite like just to put a little bit into my neck area, just so that my neck doesn't look like my face isn't floating. So it's a sort of a 3 shape with an oval face. What I also like to do is to use some highlighter, which I talked about with the round face. So I'm going to use my Instant Bright highlighter, and I like to use this. It's a clicky pen. I've already put a little bit underneath my eyebrows, but I like to just add a little bit of highlighter just in a sort of C shape. And it just makes you look a little bit more, the cheekbones, brings my cheekbones forward even more. Lost a little bit of definition as I've got older. So putting a little bit of highlighter and a little tiny bit, I quite like to do down the centre of my nose as well. Just to thin my nose a little bit. So a little bit in here, in my frown lines. So I'll put a little bit more on just so you get the idea. You can sort of see that glowy dewiness bringing out, which creates a little bit more shape to the face. So that's probably what I would do with my highlighter for an oval face. You might have a triangle or a heart-shaped face. So that is where you might be sort of quite that sort of shape, or even that sort of shape. So if you've got a triangle or a heart-shaped face, it will be wider at the top and much, much narrower at the chin. You might have really lovely prominent cheekbones with that face shape. So I would definitely emphasize those cheekbones, because wow, that's really a nice thing to do. So definitely putting the highlighter onto the cheekbones. To offset it, if you've got a very pointy chin, if you want to sort of offset that with makeup, using a slightly lighter concealer. So we do beautiful creamy concealer. So it might be that you use the shade number 1. And what you can do is to put a little bit of concealer just from your ears down to your chin, which will sort of just bring that area forward slightly. So just very slightly concealing just sort of along here, just a little bit of extra light. Blend it well if you're going to do that, because you do not want to look as though you've got a stripe there. But that will just basically bring that little bit further forward. The other thing you can do is you can arch your brows a little bit more and give a little bit of a stronger eye look, again to take the emphasis away from the pointy chin. What you wouldn't want to do is to put a lot of bronzer or contour powder here, which will push that back even more. You don't want that effect because that will emphasize the pointiness. So you might have a sort of a rectangular, more oblong face. So that is much stronger and more angular than the oval face shape, and you might find that your jaws, your temples and your cheekbones are sort of all completely in one line. Your face is definitely longer than it is wide, a bit like the oval face, but more angular. So with this face, I would certainly soften it with blusher. Now I'm going to talk about blusher. I haven't put any blusher on yet. With a rectangular face, I would make the blusher very swirly, quite swirly, just above the apple. So if you smile, apple, I go just above. And you can actually make it a little bit more horizontal, which has the effect of slightly widening the face. With an oval face like mine, what I tend to do with my blusher, which I'm going to show you now, I'm going to put the peach cream blusher on. That's this one. So what I like to do is to do it in a sort of a teardrop shape and bring it outwards and upwards slightly. So it's creating that sort of effect. But if I had a very long or very narrow face, I would make it a little bit more horizontal to widen the face. And if it's very angular, it's quite nice to make it, as I said, quite sort of swirly, just to make everything look less sharp. So I like to apply it with my fingers, and then I take my blusher brush, which is brush number 2, and just blend it. And you can see it just sort of helps to lift my face. It also detracts a little bit from the jowly bits that has made my face look less oval and a little bit more angular around the jaw. So it might be that you are the same as me. You've got a little bit less, you might have more angle at the bottom than you have at the top. Because I'm warmer, I quite like to add a little bit of bronzer over my blusher. If you are cooler, I would definitely do your bronzer before your blusher. So going back to the rectangular or more oblong face, as I said, I would do the blusher a little bit flatter. The other thing you can do is you can highlight, again, I have done, highlight the top, the higher points of your cheekbones with a more rectangular face, and your forehead as well, just to give that little bit of lift. So you could put some highlighter just sort of here, just here, really, just to bring the attention upwards. The other thing you can do when you want to just make your face look less long is, as I did at the beginning, is put a little bit more bronzer just in this area here, just to create shadow there so that it looks like your face is slightly less long. With your brows, rather than arching them too much, you can make them a little bit flatter if you want to. So that's just another trick with a rectangular face. And finally, the last sort of shape face that you might have is square, a sort of square face. Very similar to the rectangle, but the face is not as long, not as elongated. So focus again on creating softness with your blusher. So keep that blusher nice and swirly and the apples, and basically lengthen, use your highlighter to create that little bit of length. So I would use the highlighter on a square face to draw the attention away from the squareness by putting it down the centre of the nose in a little stripe and blending it. A little bit in the centre of the forehead as well, just sort of here and here. Just sort of here, and then just blend that. And also a little bit on the chin. You can also put a little bit of bronzer contour into your temple area, again, just to bring that forward. So again, sort of swirly blusher and not too wide with your blusher in that shape face. Keep everything very soft. You might even, with a square face, you might want to just, again, slightly bolder and slightly curvier eyebrows as well, slightly arch them. So remember that makeup is an illusion. It's a very clever trick that we can use to make things look slightly narrower, make things look slightly wider, give ourselves a little bit of shape using highlighter, using blusher, using bronzer. We can change the shape of our brows slightly using the Bring Back Brow shape. And you can detract with lovely lips, if you want to draw the attention downwards, beautiful eyes, if you want to draw the attention upwards. I haven't talked about hair. Hair is also obviously a good way, hair and accessories, of slightly detracting away. If you've got a very long face, then you might want to wear a fringe or a half fringe just to sort of keep it a little bit shorter. If you have got a face that is very, very pointy here, you might want to have a bit of fullness of hair here just to, again, draw the eyes outwards. So that's another thing you can do. There's a whole, and earrings as well, whether you want large earrings or longer earrings, just to work with your accessories and your hair and your makeup to work with your own specific, unique face shape. I hope you found some of these tips helpful. Have a little play with the bronzer as a contour, with the highlighter to bring forward, and with the blusher. And secret in all of those is to really blend well, so it doesn't look like you are caking makeup on in obvious places. Using all your brushes to blend seamlessly to create that lovely polished look. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.